हवा में जब खुशबू भी महका करे और इंसानियत हर दिल में रहका करे, तो समझ लेना कि बातें सिर्फ शौक नहीं होंगी, आज सवाल खुशियों से छलकेंगे। Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Youth Lounge, a student hosted talk show where we interact with our alumni who excel in various fields of life. This is the platform where experience meets inspiration in an insightful exchange of ideas and skills. We are your hosts, Yashvi.
And Maithili.
Youth Lounge is on air for viewers all across the globe to see live on YouTube. With this, we hope to share the pearls of wisdom and advice that our alumni present here today will be imparting to us.
Ad astra per aspera, through hardship to the stars. A quote embodied by the two remarkable individuals we have with us today. They have carved their own paths in the world and reached sought after positions at prestigious institutions and companies, charting their destinies all the way to the stars. Our first guest has always been a bright student, serving as the head girl of her batch 2017-18 at DPS East. She went on to obtain her BBA honors with a finance specialization at Christ University and her master's in public policy at the Takshashila University. Her profile is marked by numerous internships at top firms like Goldman Sachs, British Council, and Carbon Capital, and embellished by prestigious certifications that highlight her expertise. An avid munner and an active participant in varied societies, she is a dynamic, empowered, and ambitious individual. After having worked as a senior executive at Deloitte, where she played a critical role in shaping impactful solutions, she is now preparing to join as an associate at Ernst & Young. A warm welcome to our most lively and flamboyant Miss Nicole Esmeralda Diaz.
Thank you so much. I don't think I'm worthy of such an introduction, but yeah, I'll do my best. Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us today.
Of course.
Introducing our second guest for this evening, who is committed to transforming India's standard of living by driving large-scale infrastructure projects across sectors like agriculture, water, sanitation, and digital infrastructure. A specialist in public-private partnerships, he works at the Infrastructure Development Corporation of Karnataka, IDEC, focusing on sustainable development. A gold medalist from St. Joseph's University, Bangalore, he holds dual master's degrees, the first in diplomacy, law, and business, and the second in public policy from Jindal Global University. His expertise spans across applied econometrics, regulatory analysis, and government consultancy, underlining his leadership in India's infrastructure space. Welcome, Mr. Shreyas Ernest Isaac, to the program.
Yeah, thank you for the very warm welcome.
We are profoundly delighted to have you both here today. If you both are settled, we can get started with the session.
Yeah.
Okay. Miss Nicole, you have completed your BBA honors from Christ University and your master's in public policy from Takshashila University. What was your educational journey like?
Yeah, sure. So I think the question has a lot of insight on its own, which is that is my educational journey. But just to maybe provide some more context about what that was like for me, I did the BBA honors to get, more insight and context about businesses. And that was super helpful because I wanted to learn about finance. I wanted to kind of enter that field going forward. So in that sense, that was really helpful for me, and that enabled me to join KPMG, from where I went to Deloitte, and now I'm going to join EY. And there are lots of jokes about, whether PwC will be next, and I think it might. But anyway, but on a more serious note, so along with that, the reason why I chose to do the public policy bit of it is because I got a good in a good taste for business, and I realized that my view of life was a little bit lopsided in the sense that I didn't know much about government institutions, a lot to do with what affects businesses and what affects business cycles. And so that was the primary reason for which I did it. But now it's also something that's worth looking into for me to consider as a future endeavor. So in my current line of work, which is financial due diligence, I think that for any students who are interested in doing such work, it's a good field for you to kind of get a mix of everything, which is business, a little bit of, knowing what's going on macro, etc. Yeah.
Your journey sounds really interesting and inspiring.
Thanks.
My question is to Mr. Shreyas. Your educational trajectory is very interesting. You began with a BA in history, economics, and political science, and made your way over to a master's in public policy. So, what was your thought process like on this journey?
I'm audible, right? Like you can.
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm not. I mean, unlike Nicole, I didn't. Although Nicole was my batchmate, and I've not seen her so many years. I'm so happy to see you, Nicole. Um, I didn't. So I did my bachelor's. I didn't do pure economics, although economics was a large part of what I did, and one of the reasons why I did a lot of economics is also in someone who's in this webinar right now. I didn't see her, but I know she's here. So economics kind of fascinated me, but I didn't want to do pure mathematical economics. I didn't go into it. I did econometrics and things, but I never went into it. And then I started getting interested in public policy because I realized that everything around us is somewhere or the other related to public policy. And economics is one major chunk of public policy, but there's also a lot of regulatory affairs, there's political science, there's a lot of sociology involved, there's a lot of business involved. And Nicole studied in the Takshila institution. I actually interned in the Takshila institution. And that's kind of where I first got a taste of public policy and what it actually does. But I was also very interested in strategy and implementing things and not just the research part of it. And so hence I got into consultancy. If you ask me what my plan is, I've had no plan. I have just been winging it. I've just been like, oh, this may work. Let's try it out. And fingers crossed, it kind of has worked out. So that's where I'm from. And Sudarshana ma'am, I have to see you maybe later. But a large part of what I am doing today and where I am today is because of Sudarshana ma'am's. It also helped that in 2018, when I was in 12th grade, I think Abhijit Banerjee won the Nobel Prize in economics, and that really like set me off. I was like, yeah, I am like fully going to go into this.
Oh, that's fascinating, along with being deeply motivating. Miss Nicole, you've interned at numerous reputed firms and also obtained several certifications. What has been your experience interning for firms such as Goldman Sachs and the British Council? And how do you come across these opportunities?
Yeah, sure. So I think the lens from which you're asking is, as a student, would you like to intern, or are you asking about just like my experience? Because I'd be able to give you more context from my jobs rather than my internships. But if you as a student would like to get into internships, then maybe I can answer more in that sense.
I mean, either works. You can talk about your
Okay.
experiences and then
Yeah,
on
sure.
to.
Cool. So when I was after I finished, I think after when I finished school, I think my priority was kind of exploring depth rather than getting into exploring the breadth, sorry, rather than getting to the depth of one specific thing. So for me, internships was a way to do that, right? Because you can do internships in just about anything. There are so many companies out there, and I think luckily, fortunately for me, and I think for a lot of people in my peer group, there was no dearth of access to these opportunities, right? You can cold email someone, you can find it on some random platform, you can reach out. I think networking is so undervalued. Sorry. Sorry. Anyway, so yeah, so I mean, I know it's extremely cliche to touch upon networking, but I think that as a student, I really undervalued it. I thought it was just like talking to people, but I think that as you grow, you kind of realize that even those friendships that you made in school, those are people who truly care about you and want to see you advance. And so when you share with them your experiences and where you are, where you want to be, you'll find it really surprising, but people are rooting for you and people want you to go where you want to go. So essentially, my point being, there are so many sources of it if you're willing to go and look. And even, maybe alumni, right? Those could be a good source of for a student to find internships if they were looking for them. So that's about sources of internships. In terms of what my experiences were like, I think so it for me it was very different from firm to firm. So when I interned at Goldman Sachs, I wanted to do something different. So I interned actually in the HR division of Goldman Sachs because I wanted to see what it was like to do human capital at that point. And I found that that was really interesting that they had a very human centric approach to it, but it didn't really align with my long term vision. So I think that's when I was like, okay, this is not something I want to do. And so for a student, that's also a good way for you to figure out what you want to do. Because when I was in 12th, I had no idea. Like I was supposed to do law for the longest time, and then I suddenly ended up doing business. And so this was a good, it's a good barometer for you to figure out what you want to do. So then after that, at British Council, I did social media marketing. And I did that for a short period of time, but I think that was also good for me because I figured out, how marketing works, right? Even for a short period of time, I got to talk to a lot of people. I got to understand, how a specific process works. As an intern, you don't learn much, but you get to talk to a bunch of people, and even that little bit that you do learn, I think is tremendously helpful down the line, right? So, for a student, I would highly suggest that you go out to seek internships. But just, I think one caveat from my end, from my experience is don't get exploited in the name of, learning. I think, at least for me, this is like just my experience. I wanted to learn, so I wanted to do everything. But I would just say have your boundaries, know what you're getting out of it. And yeah, as long as you are clear about what you want and what you're getting out of it, I think it's wonderful.
Thank you for that, Miss Nicole. That was extremely insightful and practical advice.
Mr. Shreyas, you have taught underprivileged kids, performing the noble task of educating young minds. How was your experience, and what is the one thing that will always stay with you?
Yeah, so that part of my CV I don't really talk about much. So what happened was I was in St. Joseph's. It's in the middle of Bangalore, and so what there was this organization, and they were like, we're looking for volunteers to come over and teach for like 2 hours every week and things. And initially, I didn't really think much about it. I said I'll do it, I'll see how it goes and stuff like that. And I started doing it, and I don't know how much I taught kids because I don't know if any of my lessons were effective because I wasn't trained in teaching or anything. But I would go there and I would spend time there and get interact. And I met a lot of people there, a lot of other volunteers, a lot of other trainers and stuff would come, and I started talking to a lot of them. And that gave me a lot of on ground experience of how things work. And even today it helps me a lot in my work because I am able to visualize things at a lot more grassroots level because I've been there, I've seen how it is. And it also just threw me out of my comfort zone, right? Because I was in this environment where like 40 kids were shouting at me. And I think that's when like a few of my teachers, I think, were like laughing in the background somewhere. They were like, "Yeah, yeah, this is what you did to us, and now you're going through that." But it was interesting because I got a very deeper perspective of many different things, and those the kids there actually taught me a lot more than I taught them, I feel. So that was interesting. And if any of you are interested in this kind of work, there are a lot of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, even governmental organizations who want students to come in and spend some time with. And it's a very interesting experience.
Wow, Mr. Shreyas, that must have been such a special experience. And it reminds all of us here that as important as grades are, making a meaningful contribution to society is of equal importance. Miss Nicole, during your tenure as vice head girl and as head girl for DPS Bangalore East, and later in your roles in colleges and your career, was there any moment that tested your leadership abilities? And how did you handle it?
Yeah, sure. So I think I mean honestly, I can't attest to being a leader just yet. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm 24. I've not reached my peak leadership yet, and I think there's a long way to go. But I think just in terms of leadership qualities, right? I think that there's just one thing, which is initiative. That is, again, I know this sounds extremely cliche, but honestly, I've learned it over a little bit of time, and I've seen that this is actually like quite important, right? So even in, at work, for example, right, your ability to just show up consistently every day, put your best foot forward, and even when you're not given opportunities, kind of raise your hand and be like, you know what, I want to do this, how about we do it in this way? I think that is something I kind of learned via, things like the Vice head girl, any other of these, going for MU and stuff like that. Is just learning how to put your hand up, even if you feel extremely scared inside, and be like, you know what, it's okay, it's not that big a deal, So I think for anyone out there, this is kind of that, this is what helped me. And I think going forward, I think this is something I want to build on, just initiative.
That sounds like absolutely wonderful insight.
Thank you.
The next question is to Mr. Shreyas. You were always very active in MUNs, model parliaments, and debates. Do you think the analytical and persuasive skills you gained from these experiences influence the way you approach a problem or a policy at work?
Yeah, it does because Nicole will also say the same thing that a large part of your work life is going to be making presentations to people, trying to convince people of things. Even when you whatever idea you have or whatever work you've done, if you're not able to verbally communicate it to people at work or people in school or wherever you are, it doesn't make sense. So that part of you gets developed in platforms like a model parliament or a MUN or a debate club or whatever you have, because verbal communication is important, and it's sort of something that's gotten me through a lot of places where I think I would not have got if I didn't have that skill.
Well, it's great to hear that all the munning and debate experience has such enduring value. Moving on, Miss Nicole, you've published a research paper relating to the stock market and Indian economy. What do you think is the salience of stock market awareness for teenagers such as ourselves? And what advice would you give to those looking to pursue a career related to data analysis and investment?
Sure. So I think in terms of salience, I'm not sure how many are able to trade at, because at the age of 18 and below, I wouldn't have been able to because I didn't have the access to resources, right? But I think that if you are interested, first of all, I think it's good to know what's going on in the market, right? It's good to know what's going on in the market because it's an indicator of what's going on in the economy. And I think that what we learned with, MUNs and even like forget extracurriculars, what we learned in our syllabus is to understand and be aware of what's going on, right? And so if you can apply that to something like the stock market, I think that's brilliant because if in the future you're able to make money off it, it's a sign of value in some sense, right? So I think that if you are first of all interested in the stock market and in trading, data analysis, investment, whatever, I would say firstly, you can even make a mock account, I guess, start trading without like actual physical money and kind of get a sense of whether you're actually interested or not. And if that's something that works out for you, you can start reading. There's so many online resources, and I'd be happy to share, actually talk to you guys about resources if that's something you're interested in. And I think the benefit of this look is twofold. One, if you figure out that this is something you want to make a career out of, right? So this was a good way for me to realize that that I was interested in this aspect. I was interested in finance. I was interested in the macroeconomics. And from that, I was able to leverage that into working in financial due diligence because in my current job, it's my job to assess these companies. It's my job to help investors assess these companies, right? So you can go the direct route where you have direct impact, or even as a passive route, right? I think this generation is all about side hustles and, passive income. And I'm all for it. I think it's wonderful. But I think if you can just also build on that, I think that would be great.
Well, that certainly makes me want to explore all these vast opportunities just a little bit more. And we should all be more interested in the developments of our country's economy.
Mr. Shreyas, you work for the government of Karnataka with IDEC. Could you shed some light on your line of work?
No, so just to be clear, I don't work for the government. I work in a consultancy firm
Okay.
associated with the government. And so what I do is I'm a government consultant. So I help the
Okay.
government in envisioning projects, implementing projects, developing projects, financing projects, and so on. And it's similar to what Nicole does in some sense, but most of what I do is in the public sector and in the space of public-private partnerships and envisioning public-private partnerships and how public policy plays a huge role in this. A lot of what I do is also related to development finance and how to finance infrastructure projects, how to sort of manage infrastructure projects, monitor infrastructure projects, and so on. The core thing is something what is called a PPP, which is sort of a risk sharing agreement between the government and the private partner, and I'm kind of in that midst of facilitating that. I'm not an expert in anything yet. I'm not a consultant. I'm someone who's still learning the ropes. And I think and a lot of what I do is also related to economics, especially macroeconomics and fluctuations in interests and things like that. So that's what I do.
That sounds really interesting, and I definitely feel like I've learned something new. Okay, moving on. Miss Nicole, you have traveled avidly and experienced different cultures. You being a travel enthusiast, which is the one place that inspired you as a person and the experience that you keep close to your heart?
Sure. So I've been traveling for a bit, but I think more recently in the past, I think 1 to 2 years, because I finally had the resources to do so. And I think it's been wonderful for me because I think, I mean, very generically, like obviously getting to experience different cultures, etc., go to different places, eat different food, because I'm a huge foodie. I think that's the best part about visiting any place, like whoever you are, right? For me, I think one special moment, I think when I went to Oman, I went to Muscat last year. And I think that was a very different experience for me because I'd been to a lot of different places where I think I'll give you two places, one which is international, one which is in India. So it was really unique. Oman was really unique to me because it was like I think the word that comes to mind is like quiet consideration. Like the people are just so considerate. So I think so. I'll give you another example. Sorry, I'm ranting a little bit, but basically, in India, when you drive, right, and you reach and you see a pedestrian, the common as a pedestrian, I think we are perceived as roadkill. I think sometimes cars want to hit us.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but the terrorizing fear that you get. So, but the funniest thing is in Oman when you're crossing the road. I think when a car is like 500 meters away, it sees you crossing and it just stops. And I was just waiting for the car to cross, saying, "Okay, it's fine, I'll go after." But they just refuse. They just wait and they're just like, "Go, go, go." And that's very reflective of that culture. And so I think that by traveling, you get to experience all these unique things about different cultures, and I think that's really cool. That's about international. I think I also got to travel a bit within India, and I think one trip that really stayed with me was when I went to Kolkata because I had never, I think, yeah, that trip was really crazy for me because Kolkata is such a bustling city. It's crazy. It's crazy, and the food is just so amazing. So, yeah.
That's definitely somewhere we can agree. Well, that was absolutely wonderful, and that definitely makes me want to visit Oman. Okay.
Well, now this question is to Mr. Shreyas. You have a strong affinity for cooking. What are your views on healthy eating habits and our generation's obsession with fast food?
Okay, Nicole's laughing, and I know why she's laughing. Um, and I know some of my teachers here are laughing as well. Um, so I never believed in this healthy eating thing for a long time, to be honest. And a lot of people here will testify to that. I didn't believe in it. But I don't know, something changed, and a large part of my free time now is spent um, figuring out how to eat healthier. And no, I don't want to eat like bland lettuce-based salads. Like I eat good food, but healthy food. Um, and so the reason I actually started this was because during just after I left school, um, I got to a point where the canteen in my college was not very nice. I mean, the DPS East canteen was nice, but I didn't like the canteen in my college. And so then I had to take lunch every day to college. And so that's when I started, focusing. Before that, I used to cook, but I always cooked like all mac and cheese and things that were like really like, fun to eat. Um, but right now, my new obsession is with quinoa, and Nicole's giving like a huge side eye, and I know Nicole, I know where that's coming from, because in school I
Credit,
was not in
appreciation.
school, yeah, appreciation, yeah, because in school I was not like this. In school I ate whatever I wanted. I enjoyed myself. No regrets, but I think I've become old now. I think that's the only point. That's the only takeaway from this question, I think.
Well, no, I think you've shown us all that eating healthy does not necessarily mean eating bland food. And it's really a transformative journey with food, I think. So,
Yeah, it's a huge transformative journey with food for me, because food became something which was I ate for the taste, a large part of, and I know a lot of people, young people nowadays do this, and I think fast food has become so much more accessible because McDonald's will deliver to your house in what, 20 minutes, right, via Blinkit and things like that. Um, and that's not how it was when I was in school also. It was still not as accessible as it is right now. But uh, slowly I've noticed that, my body requires me to put that effort into taking care of it, because if it's giving us so much, I think it's also important for us to give it back something. So that's where it all started from.
yes, well, I'll surely keep that in mind the next time I feel tempted to binge eat. Miss Nicole, looking back, what's the one moment from your school life that has remained in your heart after all these years?
Yeah, sure. Just on one, I'm so sorry, but just on a separate note, I would like to petition Shreyas to please release recipe books, because I am inspired. I am not being sarcastic, facetious, nothing. I genuinely want recipes. So that's on that. But getting back to your question, um, sorry, Shreyas,
No, no,
comment.
no, Nicole. I think Nicole can tell a little bit about how I used to eat in school. She was there. She remembers. I know.
No, no, no. All I remember is your jovial personality, nothing about the food.
Oh, thank God. Thank God.
We're recording, it's okay. Anyway, getting back. So, yeah. So, I'm sorry. Your question being a moment from school life that has remained with me. Uh, I'm sorry. I genuinely you sent me this question. I gave it some thought. I do not have a specific moment that has remained with me. And I think that, I don't know, I feel like Shreyas, I think you'll back me up on this too, because I feel like there were just so many of these micro moments that you kind of take for granted, that when you remember, I think they just, even sitting in class with your friends, listening to your teacher, or when you're just bored and you don't want to listen and you want to talk to your friends instead, and you get just all of these small moments, right? Or for us, it was, I kind of wanted to get out of class a lot to go for competitions and MUNs and all of that. But all of these small moments, right? Even the stress of exams at that point, like 10th grade, 12th grade, felt like the end of the world, and it's still a huge deal, right? I'm not in any way discounting how big it is. But I'm just saying that I think it was just all those small moments that I just cherish so much with all my friends, with every teacher, with everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and we would go on these month trips, and Nicole and I were like almost always there, and we had so much fun. It's these small things that I think a lot of us remember.
Yeah. Very true.
So I think I can say that school life is an experience of its own, and it's unfair to ask you to pick just one memory.
Exactly.
Thank you both for sharing these nuggets of wisdom with us. Now let's spruce up this session with a fun-filled quiz, Wizards and Wits. Let's see how many questions you get right.
Yeah, let's go, Nicole.
Yes, I'm counting on you.
Can you identify the block?
What is this?
This is the new one. I mean, the new one. This is Delta.
Delta.
Yeah, I think this is Delta.
Yes.
That's absolutely correct. The answer is Delta block.
Nice, nice.
Now, speaking of school memories, what is your favorite canteen memory?
I don't know. Do you still get dosa on Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, that was yeah.
Same. I used to look forward to PTM so much because I would go pester my mom to get me dosa. So I look forward. That's the one thing I remember.
Okay.
Okay, well, I think that question was definitely a trip down memory lane for both of you. And now our next question: which famous 70s band is being depicted in this picture?
Rolling Stones?
This happened. Nicole, no, this is
No?
my favorite band. These are the Beatles.
Oh, this is the Beatles. Oh, yeah. Sorry. My bad.
Yes, well, you certainly know your 70s bands. The answer is, in fact, the Beatles.
As you identified the Beatles, can you tell me Freddie Mercury's real name, who was a part of Queens?
Cheers.
Ram Farouk.
Yeah.
Am I correct? I don't know.
Something like that.
Correct. First one is correct.
You need a last name as well?
Okay.
Because I don't think you'll get it.
Yeah. Well, his full name is Farooq Balsara.
So yeah, we got something right.
I think
Yeah.
we can at least
If
partial.
there were points, I would give you full points for this one.
All right, now this should be fairly easy for you guys, but can you guess these words?
Econometrics data analysis.
Absolutely right. The answers are econometrics and data analysis. And I really didn't expect anything less than this. So
I'm just glad that you're not asking us actual econometrics questions. Like this is fine. This is fun.
Yeah. Who is the author of the book The God of Small Things, which won the Booker Prize in 1997?
Arundhati Roy.
That's absolutely correct. You certainly seem well versed in literature.
all right, now which Asian country is home to the famous train street, a country where pho is commonly eaten?
Vietnam.
Well, your love for travel is certainly evident. The answer is Vietnam.
Now let's get to know you better through a few engaging interactions. This question is for you, Miss Nicole. What are the 3 basic values which you think are important in one's life?
I think for me, I think obviously the answer will honesty. Yeah, it'll differ by person because everyone's priorities are different. For me, it's been the first one is just being honest. And I mean, obviously it's an assumed quality, but I think for me, emphasizing on honesty in my interactions and everything has been really helpful for me. So that's number one. Number two is I'm a little bit of a maximalist. I use this term very, very frivolously, but essentially do what, like YOLO, you do whatever you can, you've been given one life, do everything you can, seize the day, etc., etc. So I think, that's what I try to live by. And maybe the third is kind of just mutual respect and consideration. I think as you know, in corporate a little bit, sometimes you kind of tend to prioritize your own, welfare or growth over others. And I think it's really important to keep that as a basic tenet.
That certainly made me reflect back on my thought processes. Moving on to the next question for Mr. Shreyas. What's the one habit that you have worked hard to develop that could help us grow into better individuals?
Okay, there's this idea called delayed gratification, which I don't it's quite popular now and a lot of books written about it, but
Uh,
this is something that I think has helped me become very successful in many things because you have to sacrifice if you want something. There is absolutely you can't say I want something and then wait for it and wait for it to happen. You have to work towards it. And when you work harder, you'll also notice that the competition becomes lesser because the number of people who put in that work, who stay up late, who put in that investment to work on themselves is very few. So that's one habit that's gotten me.
well, I'll certainly try inculcating that into my routine as well.
Same.
Nicole, you do it already. Okay, I know it.
Moving on to the next question for Miss Nicole. What have you always wanted to do but have been too afraid to attempt?
Oh, okay. Interesting. I've been I'm afraid of heights. I maybe there's a deeper, more nuanced way to answer this question, but it's not at the top of my mind. So I think the simple answer is I've been always very afraid of heights, but I really want to go paragliding. So I'm hoping this is the year that I get to, get over that fear.
I hope the same for you. And that certainly teaches all of us to push ourselves to the best.
I think let me
Now,
finish and then
huh?
learn. Let me finish, let me get over it, and then let you push yourself to get over it.
I'm sure this is the year. This question is for Mr. Shreyas. If you could invite any three people for dinner, who would they be and why?
Okay. Yeah, so I got this question and I really did think about it, and I don't have three names. Okay, I have two names. The first one is Abhijit Banerjee, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics. Um, when he won the Nobel Prize, um, it really opened up a lot for me because I saw that someone from India could go out there, and I mean, Amartya Sen had done it before him, but he was, Abhijit Banerjee did it at a time when I was also like looking at my career and things. So it really just bolstered it. Um, the other person who, wait, actually, I made some notes about what I had to say here. Yeah, the second person is Anthony Bourdain. I don't know if a lot of you know him. He was this travel writer, journalist, communicator, influencer, whatever. He tragically died a few years ago. But what I've learned from him is never be scared of asking questions. Never be scared of exploring new places, new ideas, because in the end of the day, you have to really you really to grow you have to ask questions and you have to like learn new things, and that's something I learned from him. So the third person I don't know, probably I'll call Nicole because I haven't met her in like 3 years or something now. So Nicole, do you want to come over for dinner? Like, you're the only one out of the three who I can possibly like make it work.
As long as you're cooking, I will come.
Yeah, definitely.
Done. I look forward to eating quinoa.
Well, Mr. Shreyas, that's certainly a thought provoking answer and definitely made me look at this from a new perspective.
Well, that was certainly energizing, and thank you both for playing along and being such good sports. But as the quote goes, all good things come to an end. On behalf of our esteemed institution, we would like to extend a heartfelt appreciation to our lovely alumni, Mr. Shreyas Ernest Isaac and Miss Nicole Esmeralda Diaz, for agreeing to be with us today. Your knowledge and experience will inspire a lot of the viewers present with us today. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to our management our principal, Dr. Manila Carvalho, and our vice principal, Ms. Preeti Suta, for providing a platform where our students can benefit by interacting with our alumni. I thank Ms. Vinita Desai, HOD Commerce Department, for organizing and facilitating this episode of the talk show, and Ms. Vijay Lakshmi, Commerce faculty, for her unwavering support. I would like to extend my gratitude to Ms. Shonali Roy, HOD English Department, and Ms. Sioni Dikshit, English faculty, for their constant support and guidance. I also thank Ms. Vikranti, HOD Computer Science Department, and Ms. Pallavi and Ms. Nisha, Computer Science faculty, for technical support. This talk show is a culmination of these efforts and is a success due to their contributions. And finally, we began this session with a quote about the stars, so it seems fitting to end with these words by Shakespeare. It is not in the stars to hold our destinies, but in ourselves. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.